Rain poured down in angry sheets, the kind that made even street lights look like melting fireflies in the storm. The wipers on Daniel's old truck screeched back and forth, barely keeping up with the water splattering across the windshield. He was exhausted after another long day juggling work and fatherhood. His shirt damp, his mind cluttered, and his heart heavy from worries that never seemed to end. But that night, fate had a strange plan for him. Because just as he turned down the lonely road leading home, he saw her, a lone figure, standing by the roadside, drenched to the bone, clutching a broken umbrella. Something in him told him to stop. He couldn't explain it. Maybe it was the look of defeat in her posture, or maybe the faint light from the street lamp glinting off her tear-streaked face. He slowed the truck and pulled over, rain splashing up as his tires rolled through the puddles. That single decision, that single act of kindness would go on to change not just his life, but the entire future of his little family in ways he could have never imagined. Sparkles, before we go further, if you believe in kindness, fate, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more real emotional stories that touch hearts around the world. Daniel Parker was a single father of two, 7-year-old Emma, whose laughter was his only sunshine, and 3-year-old Noah, who still clung to his shirt whenever strangers passed by. His wife, Leah, had passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer. Since then, Daniel's life had been a balancing act of pain, hope, and survival. He worked as a mechanic by day and a delivery driver by night, trying to provide the simple things, warm meals, rent, and the illusion of stability for his children. But every day, the weight on his shoulders grew heavier. That night, after dropping off his last delivery, he was just thinking about how he'd explain the late rent again when he saw her, the woman standing alone in the storm. She looked like she'd been walking for miles. Her coat clung to her like a second skin, and her hair was plastered against her face. He rolled down the window and called out, "You okay? Need a ride somewhere?" She hesitated, clearly unsure whether to trust a stranger, but the cold rain was merciless. With a small nod, she opened the passenger door and stepped in, trembling. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. Her name, she later said, was Clara. As they drove, the silence between them was filled with the hum of rain and the low rumble of thunder. She looked lost, not just physically, but in spirit. Her eyes carried a pain Daniel recognized instantly, the kind of quiet heartbreak that never really leaves you. He dropped her off at a small motel near the edge of town, paid for her room when she confessed she'd lost her wallet, and gave her a spare umbrella from his truck. She tried to protest, but he smiled and said softly, "You can pay it forward someday." Then he drove away, not realizing that this woman would soon return that favor in a way that would transform his life completely. The next morning, Daniel woke early to prepare breakfast for Emma and Noah before taking them to school and daycare. The bills on his kitchen table looked more intimidating than ever. He was behind on rent again, and his truck, his only means of work, had been making strange noises he didn't have the time or money to fix. He sighed deeply, rubbing his temples when a knock came at the door. When he opened it, there stood Clara. Her hair was dry now, her eyes bright but tired. She held a paper bag in her hands. "Breakfast," she said as thanks. "You didn't have to do that," Daniel told her, but she smiled warmly. "You helped me when no one else would. It's the least I can do." What started as a simple thank you turned into something deeper over time. Clara began stopping by occasionally, offering to watch the kids while Daniel worked late. She had a gentle way about her, the way she braided Emma's hair, read stories to Noah, or hummed lullabies that filled the little home with peace. For the first time in years, Daniel felt his heart lighten. Still, part of him remained cautious. He didn't know much about her past, where she came from, why she'd been walking alone that night, or why sometimes her eyes seemed distant, haunted by memories she refused to share. But she never crossed any lines. She respected his space, cared for his children like they were her own, and slowly became a quiet part of their lives. Weeks turned into months, and the Parker house began to feel like a home again. Daniel would come home from work to find Clara cooking dinner. The kids laughing in the background, music playing softly. It felt like the family he thought he'd lost forever. Then one evening, everything changed again. Daniel got a call from his landlord. They had to vacate within 2 weeks. The property had been sold and the new owner wanted to renovate. Panic set in. He had nowhere else to go, no savings, no time to find something affordable. That night, as he sat with his head in his hands, Clara quietly placed an envelope on the table. Inside was a check, a large one, enough for a deposit on a new home. Daniel looked up, stunned. "CL, what is this? I can't take this from you." Her voice trembled. "It's not charity, Daniel. It's a thank you for saving me when I had nothing." She finally told him the truth that night. She'd been a financial analyst in a nearby city, married to a man who'd been emotionally abusive for years. When she finally gathered the courage to leave, he froze her accounts, took everything she had, and left her stranded. That night, in the rain, she had nowhere to go until Daniel stopped. After weeks of legal struggles and therapy, she had finally regained access to her funds. And she wanted to use that freedom to give back, to help the man and children who had given her the first sense of safety she'd felt in years. Daniel was speechless, but Clara's help went beyond money. She began using her skills to manage his small repair business more efficiently, helping him get better contracts, create an online presence, and expand beyond simple odd jobs. Within a year, Parker's Auto and Repair had become a reputable name in town. Daniel could finally breathe. His debts were gone, his children were thriving, and his home was full of warmth again. But more than success, what touched him most was how seamlessly Clara had become part of their family. Emma adored her. She called her Miss C. Noah would reach for her hand before crossing the street. Daniel, he found himself watching her more often than he should. The way her laughter filled a room, the softness in her voice when she talked to the kids, it stirred something in him that he thought had died with Leah. Still, guilt tugged at him. He didn't want to replace his late wife. He didn't want to betray her memory. For months, he wrestled silently with his feelings until one night while fixing a leaky sink in the kitchen, Clara walked in. She quietly placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You don't have to carry every burden alone, Daniel." Something in her tone broke him. All the years of bottled-up pain, the loneliness, the fear of never being enough, it came flooding out. He didn't speak, didn't explain. He just leaned forward and held her. For the first time in years, he let himself be vulnerable. From that night on, things changed, not suddenly, but naturally. Clara never tried to replace Leah. Instead, she honored her memory by loving Daniel and his children in her own quiet way. She became part of their story, not as a replacement, but as a continuation of the love they had lost. 2 years later, Parker's Auto had grown into a family-run business with employees, loyal customers, and community respect. Emma was thriving in school, and Noah was starting kindergarten. Daniel had built something stable, not alone, but with the woman who had once been a stranger in the rain. On the anniversary of Leah's passing, Daniel took the kids and Clara to the cemetery. He placed fresh flowers on her grave, whispered his thanks for watching over them, and then took Clara's hand. "You saved me when I didn't even know I needed saving," he said softly. Clara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "No, Daniel, you saved me first." That night, rain began to fall again, soft, gentle, almost as if the world itself was blessing them. Daniel looked out the window, remembering that fateful night years ago. One act of kindness, one simple choice to stop for someone in need had rewritten his family's entire future. Sometimes the people we help in passing become the very angels who guide us back toward hope. Sparkles. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps us bring more emotional, real-life inspired stories of kindness and redemption to people around the world. And before you go, Red Heart, let us know in the comments, do you believe that one small act of kindness can truly change a life forever?